While everybody's joining us, we'll set up the entire session, folks. So please let me know if you can see my screen and you can see my video as well. And if my audio is clear, please ping us in the chats tab that you can see on the left side of your screen. Yeah, I can see you, Arnold. Hopefully you can see me as well. Your mic's on mute. Maybe we can check that as well so that there are no surprises while we are in the session.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, it's completely clear. I hope it's clear for everybody in the audience as well. If it is, please do ping us in the chat tab so we know that all our systems are working completely fine. We have Faith from Spondoo's team who has joined us as well, and we also have Chandru from Zoho. He'll be our product expert for the day, and he'll be answering all the questions. I'll be a host and product expert. I'll try to answer all the questions and whatever doubts you have on Zoho Books as well. And obviously, I'll do a formal introduction for Arnold, but most of you would know Arnold from Spondoo Accountants. So I think everything is working fine. Maybe we can get started with the session. It's already it's going to be correct exactly 11 a.m. So yeah, MTD's HMRC's initiative to be one of the most digitally advanced tax administrations in the world. From 1st April 2022, all VAT-registered businesses in UK have to be MTD compliant. So if you're making this transition, this webinar is for you. We are the speakers for the day. I'm Robin. I'll be your host and product expert. And we have Arnold who has joined us. He's the director of Spondoo Accountants. Arnold is a qualified chartered accountant under the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, ACCA, holding a practicing license under the Institute of Financial Accountants, IFA. He's director of Spondoo Accountants, a modern day tech-oriented accounting firm that provides startups, entrepreneurs, freelancers, and small to medium businesses with VAT compliance, accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, auto enrollment, and technology services. He is a Zoho champion who spearheads the transformation of accounting practices from traditional spreadsheets to modern day cloud based accounting systems. His passion for digital accounting and empathetic need to offer affordable accountancy services has seen him help over to 500 self-employed individuals startup limited companies in just 8 years. Besides his work, he's also involved in various online initiatives that educate accountants and business owners on modern day accounting using digital technology. So I'll pass on the session control to Arnold, and he can take over from me now.
Hiya. Thanks for the Thanks for the intro, Robin. You can hear me, right? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Great. So as Robin said, we're based in London. We help contractors inside and outside of IR35, e-commerce business, software firms, and we do quite a lot in financial services as well. I got introduced to Zoho probably 5-6 years ago. We built a API integration for a financial services company. So then realized if you're into getting down into the detail of technology, particularly within accountancy, Zoho's kind of the place to go. So we've been in love with it ever since, really. We even run our own practice on it. So we're hopefully the ins and outs we're fully aware of by now. In regard to what I'm going to try and we're trying to aim for today is we're trying to go through you've got two batches of MTD for VAT. The first batch was people over the threshold of 85k when they originally had to register for MTD back in April 19. The next deadline, which is April 2022, is kind of the remainder, right? So all people falling into VAT voluntary registration, pretty much. We'll go through that in more detail later on in the video. But yeah, that's largely it. My background is, obviously I'm an accountant, but I think I'm more involved in kind of like the specialist Zoho aspects of what we do. So yeah, that's us. So the next slide. This is the agenda for the call. So we're going to go through what is MTD and what its motivations. What do you guys need to do as a business? On that front, I'm kind of making the assumption a lot of you guys are registered for VAT already, and this is going to start affecting you. However, some of the demonstrations we're going to do probably is quite relevant, whether or not you're doing, whether or not you're already registered for VAT or you're just about to register for VAT. Because if you are going to register for VAT now, you basically have to instantly comply with Making Tax Digital anyway. So hopefully it'll be useful for both demographics of Zoho users. Then we're going to talk about, what's MTD Compliant software, what does that mean? And then we're going to really do a very quick overview of actually Zoho Books itself and how to get yourself set up and use it and start filing returns. Then we're going to talk about record keeping. I mean, a lot of the agenda of MTD is around record keeping and how using a bridging solution, which we'll talk about later, is different to using Zoho and what the features that Zoho can really actually make you keep digital records. Then, we'll make a very, very quick sales pitch of what Spondoo can do. You can choose to listen to that bit or not, but yeah, we're very quick. And then we'll open up some questions and answers, hopefully once I've stopped talking, so it won't take too long. Great. Okay, so what is MTD? So it's a government initiative and this is their high level summary, is to make the tax system more resilient and effective, to boost business productivity and support taxpayers. Obviously, many of us probably don't really know what that means. I'm slightly confused what that means. So I think what the more detailed goal of it, both in what the government says and what I kind of suspect their motivations for MTD is the first aspect is errors. A big problem with the old-fashioned VAT reporting, where you've got almost a gap between your accounting software and Hmrc, is the rekeying of data. So obviously that is manual errors from humans, but also just general totaling up the VAT returning correctly. So I think a big motivation is to try and remove that, and their solution is this kind of, they're calling it a digital link. What that means is there's two digital places, one being your accounting software, one being Hmrc. And the idea is, if you remove a human being from that middle process, you can somewhat remove or reduce the number of errors in the process. I think another motivation here is kind of accountability. One thing you'll notice with all VAT compliant software, there's a lot of statements where the user actually submitting the return is confirming as that user that they're happy with the numbers that they're submitting and it's true and fair, etc., etc. So it's kind of forcing the user to take a bit more accountability for what they're submitting, and in their words, take reasonable care and link you to that reasonable care. So yeah. Another one is, obviously, I think they want to make the tax system more efficient, so some cost savings for the exchequer. There's a number of numbers going around, and I don't want to get them wrong, but they're obviously in the millions of what they could potentially save the exchequer in just general operation and administration by getting things digitized. Another thing to kind of address here actually is rumors. I heard a lot when it was first coming out that Hmrc wanted to get hold of the transaction level detail associated to, when you build a return, you used to just type in the totals in the Hmrc website, a lot of people thought that the introduction of MTD was kind of you passing the underlying individual transaction details over to Hmrc. More than happy to be proved wrong here, but to all my knowledge, that's not actually the case. It's still just passing totals as it was before over to Hmrc. But obviously, through the accountability aspects, they're still trying to obviously improve and have more oversight on what you're doing anyway. So yeah, I mean, aside from what that's kind of the motivations of MTD. My suspicions is they and hopes is they're trying to really centralize their back end. So that whilst you're seeing the aspects of MTD, I think it's part of a big general thing with Hmrc where they're trying to centralize their back end database so they can have cross departmental, communication and systems. Your personal tax account being one of them, if that makes sense. So yeah, is VAT MTD is obviously the one you're hearing about now. I think that's obviously coming from April 19, but the purpose of this call is to address the requirements from April 2022. But it's not the only Making Tax Digital plan. So there's income and landlord tax Making Tax Digital plan from April 2024, and corporation tax at some point after 2026. Those ones actually, I think, are going to be more of a change for users and something which we'll obviously address in the coming years. An example being VAT, you already have to be pretty organized to be submitting quarterly VAT returns, etc. So you already have to have some robust systems in place before MTD. So hopefully the change isn't going to be too much when you see it. I think with income tax, for example, you obviously have to submit a self-assessment every year, a self-employed person anyway. But under Making Tax Digital, their proposal is actually to make quarterly submissions. So some of the compliance burden around some of this stuff is probably going to increase as a result. So what are the general rules for, let's focus on VAT Making Tax Digital. The general rule now for April 2022 is that all the remaining businesses, unless you have an exemption, have to comply. So from what date do you have to comply? And let's be specific here, it's your VAT return or your VAT period with a start date on or after the 1st of April 2022. So if your end date overlaps that date, that particular period doesn't need to comply with MTD, but if your start date does, then instantly you have to comply with MTD. So yeah, that's one aspect. Exemptions from MTD would be they've come up with this concept called the digitally excluded. That kind of relates to religion, disability, age, remoteness of location, whatever that means. Potentially like a farmer or someone where it's difficult to get access to internet or something to that respect. You can submit other reasons, and they'll be considered on a case-by-case basis. But it's important to note that you do have to make sure that you apply for this exemption. It's not automatic, so it's worth being prepared in advance. And if you think you're exempt, you can't just ignore it. You need to make sure you apply for the exemption. Other exemptions would be the giant service with VAT. You'd know if you were part of that. That's like NHS and government stuff. So most likely you're probably not in that if you're on this call. And the other one is obviously if you're in insolvency proceedings. That probably makes sense, right? So that's that. So obviously we're considering. Let's assume you comply. What do you have to do in order to kind of get ready? I think the overarching thing, if you haven't registered for MTD VAT yet, I stress to do so as soon as possible. Whether or not you happen to submit a VAT return early, that's not a problem. You can do so under MTD. You can submit the period prior to the deadline, it's not an issue. A big word of warning, and I've seen this happen quite a lot, is when you delay the registration until you're about to submit the return, you will actually have to sign up for MTD, and it might take 3 working days, sometimes maybe even longer, but I haven't seen it go too much longer than that, for you actually to get confirmation to start submitting the return. So if you leave registration until your deadline date, you're almost certainly going to miss the submission of your return. You just won't be able to submit it. Essentially, your old portal will stop working and you won't be able to submit the return. So yeah, the other thing obviously you need to get in place is MTD Compatible Software, basically. So there's a list on Hmrc's website, but obviously if you're on this call, you're probably a Zoho Books user, so you're in the right place and you don't need to go look at that. You're okay. So there's that aspect. So what do businesses need to do? So I'll show you now the government website, if that's okay. So obviously your accountant can sign you up, but important to know, you're probably not going to be able to sign you up if he's not already authorised to be your tax agent for VAT. So if you've got a new accountant, you might have to sign up yourself, but it's worth checking this out anyway. You can find this from Google. Just type in "sign up for Making Tax Digital VAT," and you'll get to this page. You can scroll down and press sign up. I'm not going to take you through this process in detail because a lot of it's self-explanatory, but you will need your government gateway logins that already holds your VAT account today. So yeah, follow that process, and you should get confirmation at the end of the process. But just a reminder, it will take 3 days after signing up to actually get your final confirmation, and you can't submit the return until you receive that confirmation. However, so once you've done that, one big improvement we've found with our practice since MTD's been implemented is getting your accountant authorised. So it's a lot slicker now. You get registered for VAT for MTD. Your accountant can send you a link. You essentially accept the link, and then they're instantly authorised. So it kind of removes the delay of the 64-8 process, etc., if you know what that is, right? So yeah, that's the general registration process. I'll now just give you an overview of kind of Zoho Books, how you get ready for MTD, and how it works. I believe Robin's going to step in later in the call and explain some of how the plans work in relation to all of this. Particularly if you're a small business and you're not using Zoho today, some of those plans can be pretty invaluable considering the pricing points. So yeah, anyway, so this is Zoho Books. You should probably know it already. If you don't, this is probably a bit more beneficial for you. You've got it looks like a lot of cloud accounting packages you'd see in the market. So you'd have sales. You can go in here, add customers. Endless amounts of automation features. As I said from the beginning, we found Zoho as a result of it, and it kind of beats the rest of the market on that. You raise customer invoices. It will automatically raise customer invoices. A big thing which we find, and we find an absolute must for e-commerce clients, is the ability to send invoices from your own custom domain. So instead of sending it from @Sage or @QuickBooks, with Zoho, it's built on the back of a CRM engine, so you can send from your own custom domain, so @Spondoo Accountants, or however you want to issue them. So it's a lot more professional, particularly when you're running like an online system. Obviously, other functions, bills, purchases. We'll go into the bills and purchases a bit later on in more detail, because that's, I think, the record keeping requirements for Making Tax Digital is quite. I think it's a must that you should use something like this to make sure you're properly, because you obviously do get fined if you don't keep appropriate records. But I'll go into more detail. As like all other accounting systems, you've got your automatic bank feed, so it can connect to all the major banks. We have most of our clients at the likes of Starling Bank nowadays, and you set up your automatic feed. So if you're used to using other accounting systems, a lot of these aren't new to you, but there's a lot more that Zoho can do because it's part of a much bigger environment than a standard accounting system. So yeah. The next part, just to warn you, is because there was the entering of like our own personal government gateway details. I've tried to take a video, so I'm going to try and keep up to speed with this video as we talk. So imagine there's two scenarios here, right? So you could be a business who's already registered for VAT and need to comply by the 1st of April 2022, or you're a business that might just be registering for VAT for the first time, and you're so close to it. I'd even say register for VAT, MTD, the second you register for VAT now. If you're my client, I certainly get you to do so. So yeah, we want to get to this page. How do we get there? From the main dashboard within Zoho Books, you go across to the cog item on the right hand side and go to VAT. Here, obviously, we're going to now say that we are VAT registered. So we're going to say yes to that. Go on, video, catch up. Right, so here, obviously, we can enter our details. If you're already registered for VAT and you've been submitting manual VAT returns via Zoho Books, it's quite likely you've already done this piece. So you will have an additional option, which you'll see in a second. However, if you haven't and you're registering for VAT for the first time, you're obviously going to need to know cash accruals, which VAT scheme you're on. I'll just pause the video there to be fair. Cash accruals, which VAT scheme. If you're trading internationally, particularly with the EU, you're going to need to know whether you're part of the MOS scheme, etc., or Northern Ireland Protocol. And then if you're in the construction industry scheme, a good thing to be aware of is the domestic reverse charge, which came out last year, or this year. I think it was this year. And yeah, so all that functionality is there. You can obviously submit quarterly, monthly VAT returns. However, one thing Zoho can't handle today is the annual accounting scheme. But a lot of our clients actually don't use that. So I'll continue with this. And obviously there you can set up percentages for the flat rate scheme if it applies to you. So hopefully I would have saved that in a sec. Right, so once you've saved that, you're obviously going to get access to more settings. Now, this bit, if you've been using Zoho before, you probably would have seen this section but not used it. What we're going to ask you to do now is obviously select file to Hmrc using Zoho Books. That is obviously the specific MTD section. What does this generate first return from? It's good to get this right. So as an example, you could be registered for VAT, back in 2018 or 2010, but you actually only want Zoho Books to start generating VAT returns from a certain date. So they only want to start doing the calculations, etc. So it's good to get this right from the outset because it's going to force you to do it correctly and in line with what you've told the system to do. You can go back and change this stuff, but it's good to get it right from the outset. So obviously in this example on the screen, you can see I'm assuming that I want to submit my VAT return before, let's say this quarter ends on the 31st of March. I might be wanting to submit my MTD VAT return the quarter before the actual mandatory compliance deadline. So yeah, obviously if you didn't want to do that, the date you were putting in there would be the 1st of April 2022. This is what I mean about the kind of like linking and accountability that is kind of linking the user to the person submitting this, and it's making you make a lot more declarations now. You'll see when you do that, it will take you across to this screen, and you need to grant authority for Zoho Books to interact with Hmrc. This section is why it's a video, because you have to then enter your government gateway credentials. So a good thing to reiterate is that is the same government gateway credentials as your existing government gateway. Just try and register your MTD account under those existing ones. So you grant authority. Confirmation of the type of scheme in use. Okay, and now essentially you're ready to go. So I will stop sharing that video and jump back into Zoho Books now. This was actually using a demo account, the video you just saw. It's essentially synced to Hmrc. So what steps have you taken so far? You've registered for MTD. You've waited 3 days at a minimum. You've then entered your details in here, or if you've already been using Zoho Books to file manual returns, you would be just entering your VAT filing settings instead of just your VAT settings. And now you're essentially ready to go. Apologies, I think it's taking me through the same workflow again. Oh, I might just go back actually. Apologies. I've used another account to access this, and asking me to reauthorize Hmrc. So, assuming it's not saying that, and you put a real account against a real book, what would you be at this stage? Is when you come into the VAT section, you go VAT filing. You've probably been using this function already. Whereas previously you would almost just mark as filed, and the VAT return would just lock and sit there, and then you type it manually into the government gateway. Going forward, now you've authorized your VAT account, you would finalize return and then you'd submit. And you'd almost do that through this function. Instead of it saying mark as filed, you'd physically be filing it, and then at that point you'd make the submission. A useful thing to also, which we use a lot here, and it kind of competes with all other accounting systems, is the VAT Calculation Report. So if you go to Reports, scroll down to Taxes, and then you go VAT Calculation Summary. This is particularly useful when because we're accountants, we have to obviously send VAT returns off to clients. We would want to kind of download an Excel version of the report. So over here, we can download the Excel version of the report, and here it gives the client an absolute breakdown of the summary of the return, and then all the underlying tabs would detail all the transactions that make up those totals. And then they'd make the approval. This is good for spotting any errors, making sure things get done correctly, etc., etc. We use that particular function quite a lot. Okay. Yes. So the next aspect I was going to show you, if I just stop sharing. We've gone through this. The next aspect is Zoho Autoscan. So a big part of this MTD push is to get digital records. Digital records fundamentally mean your individual transactions making up that VAT return need to be stored digitally, whether or not it be an accounting system or a spreadsheet. That might be what their definition is, but for record keeping purposes, if you get you get audited, etc., all those individual transactions need to be substantiated by some sort of documentation. So beyond simply the normal VAT filing requirements, and functionality within Zoho, I thought we'd go through a very quick overview of a function called Zoho Autoscan. This rivals any other accounting system with this functionality. Zoho build it in-house, and it's a real big key for our accounting practice anyway, for making sure things are done correctly. So what is it? It's a way of automatically reading invoices and receipts that come through into your bills section or your purchase ledger of the accounts. How do you get it into the system? Well, there's a number of different ways. You can have the Zoho Books app on your phone. You can have a Zoho Expenses app, which obviously comes via a different module. You can upload it via your web browser. So if I jump across to this screen here, what are we looking at? So if I go to Zoho Books, I then go to the document section. I can then see this is like a back-end storage of all the files that I'm putting into Zoho Books. I can Zoho Autoscan, obviously I explained, you can upload into this section via the app, but you can also upload from your desktop, for example. So we could upload an invoice there. And what that will be doing, it will be scanning the invoice, taking all the key items out of the invoice, so you don't have to manually key in the data to get it into the system. The third option to get it in there is obviously an email address. So imagine you're getting a lot of emails. If you're like me, I get this all the time, loads of invoices via email. I can just forward them to a configurable email address that I choose. And that will basically read the document directly and fire it straight into Zoho. It's a big part of our accountancy practice. We would force clients to kind of use these functions and just keep chucking documents into the system for our bookkeepers. So once this is done, what you'll see is it's taken the invoice date. It would take the vendor, but you'll have to enter it the first time. So once you've entered the vendor, it will start recognizing the vendor. The same with the account code, and sometimes the descriptions of line items, etc., etc. But the date, the invoice number, and the amount is automatically read. So your bookkeepers can kind of either approve it or change some of the account code before posting it and pushing it through to the accounting system. So we feel this is quite a key function of making tax digital. It's because a lot of it is about record keeping, and yeah. So I think that's it from me. Is Robin? I think that's my. I think I've done the thing now.
Yeah, I think Arnold, you can talk about your practice and everything on the next slide. We can just move on to that.
Great. So yeah, so the very short sales pitch from our side is we're accountants. We're primarily based in London. We've got people all over the UK, but primarily based in London. We offer VAT registration services, filing services, and general advice on VAT. A big part of VAT is we find is bookkeeping. We run monthly bookkeeping cycles, weekly, and even daily cycles. Sometimes we even do a 6-day-a-week cycle. So we've got a lot of resource in that area. So yeah, if you're particularly in the demographic of, you're below the VAT threshold, you want to get a cheap, affordable service up and running, yeah, get in contact and we'll see if we can help you out, basically. Cool.
Yeah, so folks, you can reach out to the Spondoo team over here. You can have their website, their phone number, and inquiries. I'll let the slide be for a few seconds so that you can note them down if you want to. Yeah. Thanks, Arnold. I think I'll just move to our slides and then we'll answer the questions. That works, right?
Yeah, that works, right? Cool.
Yeah. So folks, if you're looking for a solution right now in the market, please take a look at Zoho Books. We have 50% off on annual plans for our new customers. Zoho basically believes in democratizing accounting for everyone. So we have this offer for new customers who are going to be MTD compliant and all. You can check out our annual plans. They are 50% off until 30th of April. You can sign up right now. You can check out the handout section. That'll be a link to sign up for Zoho Books. You can just click on it and sign up for the product if you're interested in the product. We have a 14-day free trial, so obviously there are no credit cards or anything like that. Just sign up for it and check out the product. If it's working for you, well and good. If you want some help, you can get in touch with the Spondoo people, and they'll definitely help you out. Arnold will definitely help you out with the product, and then probably you can start it up for your business. You can also check out our social media handles and get in touch with us if you have any questions. We have a lot of self-tutorial videos on our YouTube channel. We talk a lot about our new updates and everything on our Twitter page and on Facebook page as well. Now, I think we are done with our pitches and what we want to say. So if you have any questions on MTD section or on Zoho Books, please do ask us in the questions tab that you see on the left side of your screen. So any question that you might have, please go ahead and can you start asking the questions. For now, I'll pass on the control to Arnold so he can answer the questions live, and we'll be answering the questions on text as well to you as and when they come. So Arnold, here's the control back to you.
Sure. I'll always see if there's anyone's got any questions. Nothing's come through yet.
Yeah. Folks, if you have any doubts on MTD, it's a good time to ask us these questions over here. Okay. Thank you, for your kind words.
Thanks, Margaret.
Yep. John has asked a question in the chats tab, Arnold. I think we can answer that.
If your period end date, so let's say it's 31st of March, I'm assuming that's what that is, that doesn't need to comply with MTD technically. Your first VAT period will be the following one, which needs to comply with MTD. So there'll be the 1st of April 2022.
You're welcome, John. Thank you, Arnold, for answering.
Cool.
Folks, check out our handout section. You can check out our page on MTD, and you can sign up for the product as well. And if you have any further questions on Zoho Books, please do ask, and on MTD as well. So here's Arnold to help you out as well. Lillian, thank you so much for your kind words. We have a question. Eileen has asked, is there any courses available which can be undertaken, and how to use Zoho Books? Eileen, you can check out our YouTube page. I think we have a lot of demo videos and everything, so that and you can also try out a product in the trial period to see how that works for you. But most of our demo videos should work out. I'll get in touch with you post the session and share some videos with you as well. Arnold, do you have anything to share over there with Eileen?
Yeah, we're a bit like you, but we're quite in our infancy creating these help guides, because we all of our clients want this support as well. So I mean, we can provide training, which tends to be one-to-one. It's not really a course, but yeah, I think it's like what you were saying, Robin. Is we're trying to expand some of our content on the actual usability of that. But your website is very comprehensive on how to use it.
Yeah. So Eileen, if you are looking for a demo video, please check out our channel and Spondoo's. I think you guys tweet about those videos, right, Arnold?
Yeah. But there's not many yet.
Yeah,
but we're building it.
Yeah. Obviously, there'll be a sizable content in a few months.
So we need to make an MTD one.
Yeah, you can check our videos, Eileen, for learning the product. If you want a one-on-one, I think Arnold will be able to help you out.
Yeah, definitely.
Done. Folks, any further questions that we can answer? If there aren't, we'll close down the session. We'll wait for 5 minutes, Arnold. I think that's fine. For any questions that might pop up, we'll answer them and then we'll just close down the session.
Yeah, that's fine.
Eight. Folks, while you're waiting for questions and everything, we have started a poll. Try it out. Like answer us, so it can help us serve you better. I'll just start another one as well.
The first, Paul, it's the first date that you want to start filing under MTD. That's a key one actually. Is if you enter the previous day, it will try and do VAT returns back to then. But it's the first one you under MTD.
Arnold, can we just project the question for everyone to see what Paul is trying to ask?
Sorry.
Yeah. Mm. I think we'll wait for another 2 minutes. Then we'll close it down. Anyways, thank you so much, Arnold, for doing this for our viewers. It was a
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. The demo part was really good, especially the how you file the VAT into the using Zoho Books and everything. It was really nice. Thank you so much for doing that for us, and a clear and concise explanation for how VAT and Hmrc MTD is going on.
Yeah, thanks. We generally do use Zoho a lot. It's robust.
Yeah, we could see that, Arnold. We could see with the demo.
Yeah.
Looks like your screen froze for a while, Arnold. I think now it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's back now.
It's back.
Yeah.
I think we can close the session, Arnold. I think people have most of the people have left. There are only 4 or 5 still active. I think probably we'll close down the session. And if there are any further questions, folks, please do write to us at support@zohobooks.com. I think we'll answer the question. And you can also reach out to Spondoo guys at spondoo.co.uk, and they'll be able to help you out with anything that's related to MTD and HMRC. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arnold, again for doing the session with us.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, Robin.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Andrew, for joining us, for answering the questions. Thank you, guys. It was nice. It was a nice session. Thank you.
Cheers.